Okay, we're about ready to get started. Today is October 20th, 2015, and this is the 2015 CFTA Business Partner Solutions Showcase. I'm Scott Friend, and I would like to thank all of our attendees joining us today. Today's webinar is being recorded. Both the recording and the slides will be made available on the CFTA website. The presentation is estimated to run 25 minutes with the remaining time dedicated for questions and answers. Feel free to send any questions using the questions dialog box either during the presentation, to add it to the queue, or to save it for the end. I would like to extend a special thank you to today's presenter, Glenn Seehausen. Glenn serves as the President and CEO of ACAD-Plus. Glenn, thank you so much for being here today, and I'll turn it over to you, Glenn.
Much appreciated, sir. So in my presentation today, I'm going to be showing a lot of live software. I promise not to bore you too much with a lot of PowerPoint. I'm a big believer in seeing real stuff with real customer solutions, and I will stick to that belief today. I do have a handful of slides I'm going to share, but fairly quickly I'm going to jump out of PowerPoint and get into real software. As Scott mentioned, please post your questions as you think of them while I'm talking. Probably won't look at that until the end in order to not disrupt the flow. So before I get into the document management side, just who is ACAD-Plus briefly, and a little bit of background. So I founded the company in 1986, so we'll be 30 years old come March. And I founded it to help customers implement AutoCAD in the early days of AutoCAD and do training. Then in 1989, we developed one of the very first CAFM solutions that links AutoCAD drawings to space and maintenance management data. That solution has grown over the years, and many of the major IWMS, CMMS applications on the market today actually use our technology for the CAD interface side. But that's not really what we're here to talk about today. That is half of my business, but what we're really here is the next bullet to discuss, which is document management, and we've been doing that for 24 years now. The names of the companies have changed, and even the product. Seco became Blue Cello, and AutoManager became Meridian. But here we are some 24 years later, and we're still working together. In fact, ACAD-Plus is their oldest and largest reseller in North America. And what we basically do is we implement the Meridian core product that you're about to see, but we turn it into a facilities solution for campus environments, specifically with some add-on modules that we've developed called IntelliModules. And we focus on your environment. We focus on campus facilities environments. We have many customers just like yourselves that are storing and managing millions of CAD drawings, BIM models, scanned images, and other related documents. So anyway, enough about the background. Let's get into what we're really here for, which is to make a case for quality metadata and show everyone what it looks like when you achieve that goal. First of all, just to make sure we're all on the same page, what is metadata? Well, it's basically stated it's the searchable information describing each document in the system. So it's the main way that people find the documents that they need. And in the end, based on 20-some years of experience, I've determined that the software solution itself will be judged primarily by the quality of the data. I mean, I'm not saying that the software isn't important. It is important. But if you lose sight of the real goal, which is quality metadata, any software solution will fall on its face. In fact, it cannot make up for bad metadata. So the main role of document management software is to provide a platform to make it easy as possible to enter quality metadata into the system. So its role, again, is to promote quality metadata. Now, it's not just the software that has to do that. The implementation team has to keep their focus on that as well. And after doing this again for so long, I've discovered that the tendency is to lose sight of that in major and minors. I mean, I'm not suggesting there aren't other important aspects of implementing a document management system, workflow, of course, being one of the main ones. But if you lose sight of the main goal of having quality metadata, no software can make up for that failure. So the role as an implementation consultant that I have, along with the internal team that I work closely with, the most critical role is to ensure we keep our focus on how do we get quality data into the system. Because there's a delicate balance in this effort, and I always talk at the beginning of one of our needs analysis sessions about this delicate balance between too much data and too little data. Too little data results in people not being able to find documents how they want to. Too much data results in people not putting documents in the system because it's too arduous to do that. And so we have these competing issues that we're always trying to find the balance between. How much is enough? How much is too much? The goal, of course, being to ensure that the system fits like a glove to the organization, that it feels natural when we're describing documents to the system, that it, like I say, fits like a glove. And by the way, one of my staff suggested I might want to take this picture off of the PowerPoint because it's kind of creepy looking. But then I said, hey, it's close to Halloween, so creepy is kind of appropriate. All right, so finally we're going to get to real software. So how does it look when you pull this off? What can a document management system look like in a facilities organization when you get it right, when you get the data where it needs to be? So I'm going to jump into the software. The user community that I'm going to be focused on today after getting permission from them is University of Colorado. They've done an outstanding job there at ensuring that their data has good quality to it. And so I'm going to launch their web client first. This is their consumer client. So what I mean by that, this is how the end users that are looking for documents in the maintenance side of the house, etc., find what they need in order to be able to do their jobs. Later in the presentation, I'm going to show how we pull this off with a different client. A couple of them actually. But so first of all, they get a link to a website these users can use to launch into this. This application can be skinned to look like our school colors, our logos, etc., our company logos if we're a company, or our university logos or whatever. So you can see this has the CU logos on it. Each user of the system is known by the system, and security is applied. So when they launch up this application, it knows who you are, and it offers the right choices depending on who you are. So I'm logged in right now as somebody who has a lot of options here. These are the most recent ones that I happen to have used, and down here are all of my options. What these are, they're entry points to a subset of documents. And some users may not have access to all of these entry points. So for example, if I'm in the campus security police department, I might not get all of these. I may only have one choice, in fact, that appears on my screen, because what I need to get to is our sustaining operational floor plans. So I simply click here in an emergency. I type any part of the name of a building. So maybe I don't know the whole name of the building. They, may have had a recent donor and we renamed it, but I type in science and it finds all the buildings that have science somewhere in their name. Or if I type in library, it finds the Norland Library, which is the name of the library at CU. So I'm going to go back to science. Let's say I have an issue in the Hale Science Building, and then I can do a search. And these are all the sustaining documents. Well, that still resulted in 25 files in this case. So I'm going to drill in a little bit more and say I really want to just look at the base plan, and I really just want to look at the first floor. I have a DWG and a PDF. I can click it, and I'm immediately viewing it. So if I have an emergency and I need a copy of this drawing, it's that few of clicks, and I've gotten to exactly what I need. But now let's escalate this a little bit to a little more complex user case than just I need a floor plan. So I'm going to go back to the home screen, and let's say that I'm going to be researching a building and all the projects that have occurred in that building. So I go to all project documentation, if my rights allow that, and I have a lot more choices here on the left to search by. Now there's a couple of concepts I want to make sure everybody sees here, and it's called faceted searching. So if I pull down this list right here, I get a list of every project that has ever been done at University of Colorado facilities since they've been loading documents in Meridian. There's about 50 of them in this screen right here, but there's 106 screens like this. So if I sit here and hit this arrow 106 times eventually and scroll down, eventually I'll have seen every project that they've ever done. But I don't want to do that. Now, if I know the project number, because I'm educated on that, I know what I'm dealing with, I can just start typing the project number in, and it will match characters as I type, and then it'll find it for me. Or any part of the project. Then I can do a search, and I can see there were 24 documents. I'm going to reset that. So I can type any part of a project name in here. I can type the word wood, and it'll find everywhere where the word wood exists in the project description. But I don't want to do that either, let's say. Let's say that what I've got is I know the building, so I'm going to go in here and say, well, it's part of the main building, which is actually called Old Main. And now if I back up, this is what's called faceted searching. I get a list of only the projects in that building. So this is one page worth, that one building. Okay. Now I want to point out a couple of things that you see here. The project numbering convention has changed over the years. The legacy projects from before they were using computers, dating way back to, whatever the 1900s, 1800s, are one naming convention. The current project management system uses this naming convention. And then they also have what they call small initiatives and a previous naming convention. So this is kind of nice if I know the project numbering conventions. But what if I don't and I want to see this thing chronologically? Well, I can jump down here and see the same list of projects you just saw, but instead presented in a chronological order by the time frame of the project, starting with the original plans, all the way leading up to the most recent projects that they've done in that building in this year. So every choice that I make in here is, again, based on the metadata, and it's all a faceted search approach. So once I've picked a given project, let's go to one that I've kind of looked at before, then I can go in here and say, well, what do I want? I want the bid documents, the closeout documents, meeting minutes, etc. Or I can skip over this and go at what we call the subclassification, which is a more detailed notion of this. So I want the record set CAD drawings, or I want the attendance sheets, and hit search. That quickly I'm looking at the specific attendance sheet for that particular project. I can also come at this based on who the manager of the project was, if that's what I know. So I can come in here and see a list of all the project managers. I can go to a given project manager, and I'm just going to randomly pick one here. And now when I go backwards, I see all the projects that PM has been involved in. So there's only 2 screens worth for that specific PM. Same principle you've already seen, all based on metadata. So now let's elevate this a little bit more to get a little fancier here. Let's go back to PowerPoint for a minute and show how this same application can be driven by other applications. So this is just a simple screenshot of a map, a campus map, but they actually are doing this with their GIS system. And I just kind of mimicked it here because it gets the point across. But in their GIS system, they can zoom in, they can get to any aspect of the campus map. Then they can go click on a given building. I'm going to click on Old Main here. and it launches a smart URL that they've taught the GIS system to construct. And it's pretty basic, actually. It passed the name of the building, except actually the building number of this building, into the URL. Building 239 was passed in the URL, calling up the subset of documents where that is true, taking a user to just all of the documentation for that building. So now if they want to go to see the closeout documents for that building, the record set PDF files, that quickly they're looking at the all the different projects that have happened in that building, the record set PDF files. And we can go a little bit further with this concept. Last example here real quick is tying it to the maintenance management system. So in this particular case, they're using Accruent's famous solution. And if I'm a maintenance person and I'm looking at a piece of equipment that I've been told needs some maintenance done to it, I can go into Famous, I can go to what they call equipment attachments, and I can have a Meridian tab that basically launches Meridian, passing it the equipment in the URL. So same principle you just saw, but now it's passed the equipment number in the URL. And it brings me directly to the 4 documents about this equipment, a pump spec, a pump photo, an O&M manual, and the warranty documentation, for example. And so if I go to a manual, I can go search here, and I can say, show me all the tools, show me where it says tools in the manual, and I can get to the required tools, for example. So the point I'm trying to make here is you can't have what I just showed you. This is the outcome, but you can't have this outcome without having good data. I mean, this document was tagged to the equipment. This document understands the building using a very strict set of constructs. This document understands the project it was received in the context of. And so by now, typically when I show this, people are saying, yeah, great, Glenn. You know, some may have even already dropped off the meeting because they're like, there is no way we're going to get our organization to enter this much data about documents. It just isn't going to happen. So this becomes the objective of an implementation, in my opinion. How do we get this good data that you just saw, but how do we get it in a way that works for people, that's easy, that makes sense? And how do we get it in a way that ties back to the other systems, the GIS system, the space management system, and the maintenance management system? That's the magic. That's the hard stuff. And so I'm not going to just show you the fun stuff. We're going to get into the hard stuff for the rest of the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this and go on to my PowerPoint for just a couple more slides, and then I'm going to show you the other aspect of the software. So how do you achieve this quality metadata that I showed? Well, the primary way that you do it is you leverage data from other systems so that people aren't, in fact, having to enter all this information. It's already been entered by others as part of the workflow processes in the organization. Some of the systems that we frequently tie to is the project data from the project management system. Now, some of our customers don't already have a project management system, so we have to put together a fairly rudimentary notion of project, but that's all we need from a document management system. Ideally, the customer already has some kind of a project management system, whether it be eBuilder or Unifier, or in the case of Colorado, they're using Famous's Capital Project module. The second touch point with other systems might be the same system if it's an enterprise solution, or it might be a separate system, is locations data. We want a commonality between sites and buildings and floors in these systems so that they can talk to each other the way you just saw. That might be ARCABUS. In many of my customers' cases, it is ARCABUS. It might be AssetWorks. It might be Famous. It might be Tririga. It might be FM Systems. There's a lot of different products out there that we've already integrated with at these various customer sites for this. And then finally, we also want it to tie to the maintenance management system, like the last example I showed. That would be equipment or asset lists. It would be work orders, since some documents are received in the context of a work order, like when we replace a pump or get a new warranty because we replaced a pump and we have a new manual or something. So we need to leverage that data as well. So I'm going to show that in just a second, but so that I don't go back and forth between PowerPoint too much, I'm going to show the next notion, and then I'll show both of these in the software. Finally, it should be rules-based. It should support business logic that makes sense to your organization. It should limit the choices for the users based on what they're doing, based on their role in the organization, and based on the kind of document that they're dealing with. So some examples of triggering I'm going to show in a minute is populating the location data from the project data. The project already knows what location it's about ideally, so I shouldn't have to enter that a second time. Somebody did that when they made the project. I shouldn't have to deal a lot with security. The system should be smart enough to default the security appropriate to the type of document. And drawings are a bit unique. So I'll show what I mean by that in a second. So drawings aren't the same as an O&M manual, and the system should be smart enough to adjust itself for the type of document that it is. Okay, so let's bail out of PowerPoint and show where the rubber meets the road here. So this is same product, but this is our Explorer-based client. So in other words, users that contribute documents to the system and edit documents in the system are a bit different. Could they use a web application? Absolutely. But is a web application a bit awkward when it's trying to talk to AutoCAD and talk to Word, which are running on the desktop? So this application is designed to look and feel more like Windows Explorer feels, because that's what people are used to when they're working in Word or AutoCAD or Acrobat or Excel or whatever. So the first thing I want to show about this is that this is the same information you just saw on the web client, but it's presented a little bit differently. It's presented in the form of folders, but these aren't folders like you're used to. These are virtual folders. So it's the illusion of a folder, not an actual folder. What do I mean by that? Well, the particular view that I'm using right now is organizing the documents by the name of the building, okay? And then when I open up one of the buildings, Old Main, it's organizing them by the project number. And if I open up any given one of these, the older ones are just going to have closeout documents, but the newer ones, they're putting everything in. And you can see the file that it is. It's a contract, it's a purchase order, it's correspondence, emails, everything. We support all kinds of file formats in our built-in viewer. And then we see all this metadata that you were seeing earlier, which again, it's all about this metadata. And there's a lot of it. You see here a bunch of metadata. This is not a drawing, so we don't have disciplines for it, but here's the project data, here's the location data, and you're not even seeing it all because I've got it covered up by some of the screen. So this is how, the goal here is how do we get this much data and this good a quality data. But before I get to that, one more thing. You can switch to different folder views. So this view right here that I'm on right now, which is organized by the building name, the project number, and the class of the document you just saw, I can change this to say, well, I really want to organize everything by the PM, because it's all about me. I'm a project manager. It's all about me, me, me. So I'm Blake, and I want my stuff. So here's Blake's projects that he's ever been involved in, that he's stored documents in Meridian, quite a number of them. Well, even that list is going to grow if he's been there for 20 years. So that's going to get annoying to Blake that he has to see all these on anymore. So no problem. He just switches to his active projects. Now, when he opens it up, where did he go? Here we go. Now it's a smaller list. It's still pretty long. He has a lot of active projects going on. So this helps Blake do his job. Now when he puts a document in here, he can go to Windows Explorer, which is I called up here on the right. He can grab a document from his email, from his hard drive, wherever he happened to get a document. So I'm just grabbing anything here for demonstration purposes. Drag it into Meridian, and it starts asking smart questions. So it starts by saying, what kind of a document is it? I don't have time to describe all of this because it's such a short presentation, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's a project happening in a building. And here's where the magic is. He can go in here and he can say, query the project management system for all of my projects. Let me clear this because I forgot to do that before I started my demo. It can bring up every single project that's in the system. And then he can start walking down and saying, well, I want just my projects. So if I stick with this Blake, this is all of Blake's projects. Then he can go in and say, well, I really want to focus on Old Main. These are the projects he's doing in Old Main. But what's neat about this is he can go in and he can say, I want all the active projects that I'm working on. So it's Blake and it's active. Then he can say, save that, so that now every time he launches up a wizard to put a document in and he brings up this list, it's always his stuff. That's the difference between using it and getting good data versus avoiding it because I'm annoyed I can't find what I need. And he can quickly go in here and search this, sort it by different things, pick which project it is, and hit OK, or even just type the project number in if he knows it. But here's what's cool. Because somebody entered this all in the project management system, it just filled in 20 things that I'm going to be able to find that document by forever. And not just me, everybody in the organization is going to be able to find that document by this data. This is coming from their space management system, an accurate list of buildings. This is coming from their maintenance management system, an accurate list of equipment, so it can tag the document to the right equipment. So they're not entering really but a couple things. They're actually, literally, they're entering typically a project number, a type of a document. This actually fills in for them. I'm not logged in quite right. A type of a document, a description of this document, which I don't have time to get too much into this right now, what they call a file suffix and a description. And that's about it. They actually say whether it's the final version or not. And for most documents, that's it. They enter about 3 or 4 things, but they get about 50 things that it can be found by forever, which is what I started the demonstration with, all that good quality metadata. All right, so I think, yeah, I'm right at about on schedule here, about 25 minutes into this. I'm sure I didn't do this quite the justice, but hopefully I hit on the highlights, and I think we can open it up now and see whether there's some questions that have been asked. I believe you're supposed to type them in if you have any questions. Let's see, I'm trying to get to this, so bear with me just a minute. See if anybody's asked anything. Interesting. I don't like the first question I see, that they couldn't see anything. Hopefully that wasn't the case for everyone.
I don't think it was, Glenn. I've seen everything. Somebody did raise their hand.
Do you know how to do that? Because I don't. If you want to let them talk, I'm fine with it.
Go ahead.
Oh.
If you go to the attendees list.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
Oh, just they just put it in the questions.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Wow, this thing
says, how hard is it to integrate documents from homegrown systems or non-facilities-based enterprise systems?
Very easy, actually, and quite a number of my customers don't have the luxury of having, one enterprise system. They have disparate systems and even some homegrown. And absolutely, I would say probably at least half of my customers we've integrated with various homegrown solutions, especially on the project management side. Seems to be pretty common to still have homegrown project management systems.
And you had another one. How do you deal with legacy projects for which there may or may not be any metadata available?
Yes, this is one of the trickier things, but one of the things I believe in incredibly, that it's so critical for this working well. If they put a document into the system linked to a legacy project, they actually have the ability to pick from a legacy list, and this list is typically much less data that they entered strictly for document management purposes. It looks like a lot of data, but it actually isn't very much. They make up a project number, because sometimes those really old projects don't have a project number. They try to discern some notion of time frame from looking at the documents themselves of when this project happened, but it doesn't have to be real precise. It just needs to be, okay, had we been using in 1962 a project management system, the date of that project would have been roughly then. All of them are closed by definition for legacy projects, so that's easy. The description is probably the trickiest part, that you have to look at the documents and say, hey, I got to come up with some description, like the original drawings for this building, for example, or addition that we did on the building. But usually you can tell that by the cover sheet of the project. And then you still link it back to your building naming and numbering convention, so it still ties to your CAFM system. If sometimes these aren't even in CAFM because they've been demolished, so that introduces another slight complexity. But we have answers for that as well that I can't get into because we're out of time. But basically, the short answer is you emulate the data from that project as if you were using a project management system with the little bits that you do know.
The next question is there any way to handle drawings at the set rather than the item level?
Handle drawings at the set rather than the item level. Oh yeah, a lot of customers put their the submittals that occur all along the way, like the 50% submittal, the 90% submittal, the issue for bid, etc. They will put those into the system as one big PDF with multiple pages to it, and that works fine. But then when they go get the best and final one, sometimes that's the issued for construction because they never got an as-built. Other times it's the as-built. But anyway, a lot of people are starting to call that the record set. And that last and final best they get, they typically put that in as individual sheets, allowing the users to be able to get to the mechanical stuff without having to page through all the architectural and the electrical. So there's a big payback in splitting up the sheets when for the final and set, but there's not a big payback for doing that for all the intermediate sheets or submittals that led up to the final.
Next question, are you able to search across everything? For example, I know I'm looking for a document about ramp repair. Can you just search for ramp repair without knowing the project or the building and not being sure if it is in title or the description?
Yes, you can. You can even, I'm not going to try to show that right now, but you can even search the content of files if we turn that feature on. So yes, you can do more of a Google-style search of lots of the data for a certain term or multiple words and stuff, including searching the actual content of files. Now, obviously, that only works on old drawings, for example. It only works if somebody's OCR'd them, and OCR on hand-drawn drawings doesn't work very well. So the honest truth is, for really old drawings that were hand-drawn, you're not going to probably be searching content. But for current drawings that are produced in CAD, or for PDF files that are produced from Word or Excel, or from Word and Excel itself, for example, you can even search the content of the files. And when it is OCR'd, we support searching the OCR data from old scan specs and O&M manuals and stuff like that.
I think that was the last question, unless there are any other questions.
All right, well, looks like we went about 4 minutes over anyway, so I again thank the CFTA and you, Scott, and I thank everyone for joining us, and you all have a wonderful rest of your week.
Well, thank you, Glenn. And I'd like to thank all the attendees who joined us today. The next webinar in the CFTA Business Partner Solutions Showcase is scheduled for 1 p.m. on November 12th, 2015, and the presenter will be Terry Klein with TSA Advent. Terry will be presenting on Document Management Security for Dummies. For more information on future webinars in this series, visit CFTA website at www.cfta.org. Thank you very much, and have a good day.